Policy is never the problem in South Africa, but implementation is. Political analyst Harlan Cloete proposes 5 steps that can help government implement policies and change. He believes that academia can bring about structural and institutional change and benefit everyone. He joins me now virtually. Prof. Cloete, good afternoon. Welcome to Today on ENCA. Thank you very much for your time. In one of your recent opinion pieces, you start by citing a University of Cape Town professor, the late Bongani Manyusi, who said, and I quote, "There is no point in publishing papers if they cannot be translated into better treatments, better survival, better quality of life, and longer life for the people of South Africa." So you believe that the role of academia is to help in practical ways to build society?
I think, yes, towards the end of the article, I say that, we that are paid to theorize, we that are paid to come up with concepts and ideas, we have got a higher moral responsibility. And so academia must be at the forefront of speaking truth to power to make sure that we just not theorize, but we actively are engaged in shaping society and making sure that these theories, that they come to life, and that ideas are tested. And so knowledge production is such a noble cause, but producing knowledge just for the sake of knowledge benefits nobody if it cannot benefit society. If society cannot benefit, like Professor Bongani Manyusi said, then what is the point of producing papers if it doesn't play an active role in shaping society and also challenging dominant narratives within our society?
How does academia do that? I mean, in a world where sometimes we get a sense that political leadership is not actually listening.
There is much talk in our country about evidence-based policy and evidence-based. And now Salga, about 2 years ago, talked about the importance of evidence-based policies and decisions, making sure evidence and following the science. I think that is what we've seen during the COVID times. There's the populist way, if you look at the Trump way in America, and following the data and the science. And so academia have got this role of being what Gramsci calls a permanent persuader. Not just being an orator, but being sure that we continue to put to the table and bring, by any means necessary, the evidence on the table of what is working and what is not working in society. And so I think that is the responsibility, to use research and to make sure that the research doesn't collect dust, but that this research actively goes out and shapes society.
I've mentioned in my intro that you've also opined about possible 5 steps that can be followed, for example, to help government implement policies. In your opinion piece, the one that has made us to talk to this afternoon, you use an example, a very good example, Dr. Cloete, of the Office of the Auditor General lamenting the poor state of municipal financial governance. For the past decade, that's over 10 years, the municipalities are hearing the Auditor General speaking this year in and year out, but they are not seemingly doing anything about it.
That I find quite bizarre, is that we've been saying municipalities have heard, but they are not listening. And so I've read the book, and I'm fascinated by this term of implementation. And Michael Barber, who was in Tony Blair's cabinet, came up with these 5 concepts that I've Africanized a little bit. He says, firstly, if you talk about the 5, there has to be a vision. We need to ask ourselves, why is it? Why do we do what we do? Why am I in government? Am I there to loot or am I there to lead? And so firstly, there has to be a strong vision and a value system about why I am there. Secondly, there needs to be clarity about how things should be done. What is our mission? What are the things that we as government must do every single day to bring us closer to our mission? Thirdly, there has to be what is known as monitoring and evaluation. How will we know at any given time that we are in fact on track? And so we can't wait until the end of the audit term to look at what went wrong. We need to make sure that monthly we are doing the right thing. And so monitoring and evaluation is a problem. Then if we're not on track, what are we doing about that? And that speaks to consequence management. We are either rewarding or we are condoning performance. And so consequence management is what should happen every single day. If we're not on track, how do we course correct? How do we make sure that we stay on track? And then finally, how do we lead and learn? How do we help and support? And so these 5 simple steps is what Barbara calls implementation. Our problem in South Africa is implementation. Our problem, we had another conference on the past week on local government. It's conference after conference confirms what we already know. And when I spoke at the Human Rights Commission's conference a month ago, one of the speakers towards the end said, we spoke one day about the problem and 2 hours about the solution. It should be the other way around, and I agree with her. We should be speaking solutions. We know what the problem is. Our problem is implementation in this country.
Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Harlan Cloete, and your views about what should happen in terms of implementation in our country. That's Dr. Harlan Cloete. He's a political analyst, and he's been working very closely for years with also local government structures.